One of your slides showed you're in favor of a more competitive, fair tax plan.
Yep.
And I've been reading in the paper and on television, I believe his name is Herman Cain.
Yep.
999
I've been waiting for this question. I get a lot.
I don't have a slide on
that. Yeah.
I would like to hear your opinion of how solid a plan that is, and is it even worthwhile to pursue?
Gee, that's a loaded question.
Thank you for coming, Muskego.
Sure, you bet. Okay, so Herman Cain is a candidate for president for the Republican nomination. He has a plan that's called, how many of you heard of 999? Oh, so it's a 9% income tax that's flat, a 9% corporate income tax, and a 9% sales tax. So it is designed to raise the same amount of revenue that we raise today from our current tax system, about $2.3 trillion. So the way it taxes what we call the tax base, how much money in the economy subject to taxation at 9% will raise the same amount of revenues. And the theory behind it is it would give a tremendous boost to economic growth. And I think it would. The concern I have with these particular kinds of tax plans is I'm a little worried about combining a sales tax with an income tax. That's what Europe has. Europe has an income tax system, and then they have sales tax systems, and they're fairly easy to grow and raise, and so I worry you're kind of creating a tax machine. I would rather fix and perfect the income tax system instead of having another system on top of it, because I think you can, 999 can become 10-10-10, then 12-12-12, and on. So what I like about what Herman Cain is doing is he's putting big ideas out there. You know, he's bringing bold solutions to the table. It does grow the economy. It is innovative. And I think the numbers more or less do add up. I mean, I haven't seen what we call an official score, but just kind of knowing how this stuff works, it looks like it probably does work. It's 9%, and there's a way to do it so that you don't make these regressive. Because if you just do a plain consumption tax, you know, people who more of their disposable income goes to consuming, that's a lower income person, they're going to have more of their income taxed than, say, a higher income person. We call that regressive. You've got to deal with that. And Herman has a way of doing with that. So you can debate whether he addresses the regressivity of it or not. But I would simply say I think it's fantastic that he's put a big idea out there. It is innovative, and he's starting to debate about tax reform. To me, it's better for our country that we have candidates out there not trying to win a personality contest, but trying to win an ideas contest. Trying to put out specific solutions to our problems and debating the merits of those, and out of that ought to come, you know, better ideas. And so I say, hallelujah, he's doing it. I would probably do it a little differently if I was doing it on my own. I've actually authored tax reform bills in the past myself, which are more of the dealing with the income tax system. The budget we passed said let's lower the tax rates, the top rate to 25% by getting rid of loopholes. I'll just digress 1 second, which is a lot of folks say, gosh, if you lower the tax rate to 25%, you know, right now, as I mentioned, it's scheduled to go to 45%. The president wants to make it 50%. People say, well, that's just a huge tax cut for the rich. Now, I mentioned how it's mostly small businesses that end up paying that, but look at who uses the loopholes. And the people who benefit from loopholes are the people in the top 1% of the tax bracket. The top 20% gets some, and nobody else gets the rest. And so my point is this. If you take away, I mean, an individual or a business in this category gets about $270,000 in tax write-offs annually. So every dollar parked in a tax shelter is taxed at zero. You take away the tax shelter, you can lower everybody's tax rates, then that dollar is not taxed at zero, it's taxed. Right? 25% in this particular case. So you can actually keep raising the same amount of revenue from the government, but at a flatter system that's more fair, and so more of their income is actually subject to taxation. This helps us have a system that's competitive. I'd also say that we played around with higher tax rates before. They don't really change the revenue. This red line shows you the various top income tax rates we've had in America, you know, since World War II. We've had them way, way up there. But the revenue we bring in as a share of our economy is almost always the same. How tax revenues are really determined is not the tax rate, it's economic growth. If you grow the economy, you get more revenues coming into the government. It's just that simple. And so our goal ought to be not who can we sock it to. Our goal ought to be how can we maximize job creation and economic growth. We can grow the economy faster, get people going from unemployment to actually paying taxes, we'll get more revenue. And since we have to compete globally, let's make sure that we're not taxing our businesses at much higher rates than our foreign competitors are taxing theirs. The guy in the baseball hat. And then